BBC Radio Stoke. It's just gone 25 to 11. It's Paula sitting in for Stuart this morning. So we are talking menopause. Stuart was talking about it yesterday. I was listening in the car thinking, tales to tell. Kurt of Harts Hill feeling very brave. He says, hi. He says men have to suffer the menopause more than the women. What do you women put us through? And then he's very quick to put, we're joking, Paula. Yes, Kurt of Harts Hill, better be. It's just one of those things we just can't help, mate. That's the thing. Who's this? Chris says that I didn't fully understand it. I think I escaped the worst of the worst. I was wondering if drugs prescribed or otherwise, cigarettes, bad diet, coffee, alcohol, or even something picked up from a partner can have any bearing on symptoms. Well, if you listen to our expert before the news there, she was saying, you know, if you are having if you're having symptoms and if you're going through the menopause and you're having all the sweats and irritability and this, that and the other, there are certain things you can change in your day-to-day lifestyle, like drinking decaffeinated coffee and tea, drinking more water, you know, no fags, no alcohol. It's like, yeah, I know, sounds a bit boring. However, if that means that your symptoms aren't as bad, surely then that's better, I'd say. What's this? Paula, I know what the lady was saying. This is Julia from Biddulph, who's in her 70s and still going through her menopause. She started at 42. She says, I know what she means about the hot flushes. I'm 60 years old, and last week, while it was freezing, I had the fan on most nights because of my hot sweats. I've been like that for over 25 years. 25 years, that means you were 35, Wendy, when that started. Like, that's early. That's early for anybody's standards to go through menopause. But bless your cotton socks. So yeah, thank you very much for getting in touch, Wendy. 81333 is the text line number. You can start your message with the words Stoke. Who's this? Pip says menopause. I think, Paula, that any bloke that temperature-wise is 1 minute in the Bahamas and then 20 minutes later in the Antarctic would be moaning as well how bad it is. We had the window open at -6 a few nights ago, and it wasn't enough for the other half to cool down. My right ear isn't right still, but it helped a tad. Obviously, I do nickname I've got a nickname for it, the 5,000 volts mood swing. That's a bit of a jest. That cools the mood a bit. I bet it does. I bet it does. The body clock in menopause is a very unknown day. It is, Pip, but you're obviously very understanding that you can talk to your other half about it because she bends your ear, and you've even named her menopause the 5,000 volts mood swing. Brilliant. What was interesting listening to Julia earlier as well, that she says, I knew I was going through the change. I've not heard it called that for years. That's so like Stoke, it always going through the change, Duck. But thanks for getting in touch. Yeah, because it's not just women who suffer. We suffer physically because obviously it's our bodies going through it, with the sweats, with the irritability, with the crying. I'm not a crier, but I used to be on a bus to Hanley crying, and I'd be like, what on earth's wrong with you? But yeah, no explanation whatsoever for mine. And like I say, flying casserole dishes nearly. Not quite, nearly. But yeah, could just lose my temper at the drop of a hat. What's your experience? And again, like Pip, if you're a chap whose other half or your other half is going through this time in their life, you know, how are you coping? And what do you do? What do you do to help alleviate your other half's misery? Because let's face it, it's miserable. 81333, start your message with the word Stoke, or give us a call 0800 121 8080.
Let's talk about the light in the dark, beating in your heart, waiting for a spark to reignite. Let's talk about the peace and the chaos, deep within your soul, always giving hope in broken times. Music in the madness, if you're listening. Beauty in the sadness, can you hear it? Sing it out, oh boy, stand up, make noise. Hey, 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 we're alive. a battle. Dream is holding fast to what is right. Let's talk about freedom and fear, and the clarity it gives you on your values, how you live before you die. There's music in the madness if you're listening. Beauty in the sadness, can you hear it? Sing it out, full voice, stand up, make noise. Hey, 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 we're alive. Sing it out, full voice, stand up, make noise. Hey, 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 we're alive. While we're here, while we're standing, we should give it everything we have. While we're here, take my hand and we can give it everything we have. Hey, hey, we're alive. Hey, 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 we're alive. There's music in the madness if you're listening. Beauty in the sadness, can you hear it? Sing it out, full voice, stand up, make noise. Hey, 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 we're alive. Sing it out, full voice, stand up, make noise. Hey, 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 we're alive. Hey, 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 we're alive. Hey, 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 we're
Ward Thomas, music in the madness. It's music you just have to sing along to. Hey, hey, I do. Anyway, Julia and Biddle's been back on. Julia is the lady in 70s who's still going through her menopause since the age of 42. She was listening to our expert earlier on talking about changing your lifestyle, like, you know, decaf coffee and tea, more water, give up the fags, don't drink as much alcohol. And she says she was listening to the interview with Fidelma and wants to say she's never smoked, barely drinks, doesn't drink coffee, and hasn't had depression. So none of those things are contributing to her symptoms. Julia says, my symptoms are just life. Bless you, Julia. Yeah, it's horrendous. It's funny how retrospectively, when you look back, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Because 10 years ago, when I was at the height of my menopause, I was 46, and it was when I made a decision in my career. That was my decision, albeit the actual ending at that point wasn't perhaps the best way to go about it. But I look back now and think, if I hadn't have been menopausal, I wonder if I'd have made the same decisions I made in that year, because I was all over the place. Like, I'd cry coming to work. I've not cried about coming to work. I absolutely love my job, and I used to dread coming to work every day, and just cry about it for no reason whatsoever. Now Kath in Smallthorne says if HRT doesn't work, she used a magnet, and that worked wonders for her. She said, I just have to read this. I thought, what am I reading here? Like one of those, I don't understand how you use a magnet and it worked wonders. Do you wear it around your neck? I'm sorry, I'm being a bit thick, but I don't. How did you use a magnet? I need to know. Do you wear it around your wrist or something, Kath in Smallthorne? She says they teach you how to dissect a frog at school, but they don't tell you about the menopause. It's almost like it's a surprise, don't they? There's many things they don't teach at school about life, in all fairness, Kath, let's face it. That when it happens, you go, well, I never knew that. Thanks for getting in touch. 81333, the text line number. And I know I'm joking about throwing this casserole dish, which I never actually threw, but I was tempted. It just made me think about things thrown in anger, not necessarily because of the menopause. Sue in Newcastle says she threw out her husband, now ex-husband, when she went through the menopause. Was that the right decision at the right time? Do you regret it? Or was it just you didn't have brain fog at all? You were thinking with utter clarity during your menopause, Sue. And Tattoo Chris says, my wife and I were having a little row, and she threw a pork chop at me. Pork chop, stormed out. He says, lucky I rescued it from the dogs and finished cooking it and put it on her lunch. Never told her, and she said she loved it. No, everybody will say to me, here, Paul, have you got a story to tell about everything? I have got a story to tell about meat on the floor, but I'll save that for another day. That's more a revenge story I've got to tell Chris. So yeah, things thrown in anger. I wonder what the most bizarre thing. I have had a cast iron mincer, you know, the ones you used to have to attach to the Formica units in your kitchen. If you were lucky enough to have Formica units, you'd sort of clamp it on, and then you'd turn the screw so it was solid. It's like the one they use in the Pink Floyd The Wall video, where they mince the kids. One of them, and my sister got angry when she was trying to get it off the breakfast bar at the time and threw it at my head. It didn't do much damage, but there was lots of blood, so she got into so much trouble because it looked 10 times worse than it actually was. But yes, thrown in anger. 81333, start your message with the word Stoke. BBC Radio Stoke. On the roads up and wide up, there's slow traffic due to an accident earlier on Ruxley Road in both directions. That's at Willerton Street. Apart from that, we don't know of anything else, but if you do, if you're stuck in traffic, then you can give us a call. The number to call is 0800 121 8080. 0800 121 8080.
The BBC Sounds app on your smart speaker.
Play BBC Radio Stoke.
And on your radio.
The sound of where we live is
BBC Radio Stoke.
At 11, it is for Staffordshire and Cheshire. I'm Judy Hooker. A man's been charged with 2 counts of rape and 1 count of grooming following reports of a sexual assault in Congleton. Cheshire Police says 22-year-old Raheem Rahman of Andrew Mulligan Close in Tunstall was arrested on Monday after reports a 15-year-old girl had been sexually assaulted. Rahman's been remanded in custody and is due to appear in court later today. A man's been charged with a number of offences following reports of a man driving recklessly in Stoke-on-Trent. Officers in the police helicopter were called to Divdy Road in Bentley on Monday evening. Staffordshire Police say 29-year-old Ben Ledbetter of no fixed address has been charged with aggravated vehicle taking, dangerous driving, driving without insurance, driving while not disqualified, drunk driving, and possession of possible drugs. He's been remanded in custody and is due to appear before magistrates in the Staffordshire Justice Centre later today. The families of 2 British men went missing in eastern Ukraine say they were staying by helping people to flee the conflict there. Chris Parry and Andrew Bradshaw crossed the sea and entered the city of Sunday earlier this month. Mr. Parry spoke to BBC Radio 4 just 4 days before he went missing.
I feel that the closer I get to them, I will spend some time there and actually focus when I'm in those areas. That's where I feel like I have my purpose. So I inherently feel happier being there because when I am there, I'm happy.
A 12-year-old boy from Stoke-on-Trent who's been missing has been found safe and well. Holly Osborne had last been seen on Sunday evening. A Staffordshire shot putter says she's worried about transgender women to compete in female international track and field events will see world records falling to trans athletes. World Athletics, the sport's governing body, has named the proposal as its preferred option in policy documents seen by the BBC on condition that those competing meet a testosterone limit. But Amelia Strickler from Uttoxeter says she's genuinely worried and the reason she's speaking out is to protect women. The top boss of the British Ceramics Federation says there's a lot of challenges for the industry due to energy prices. Chief Executive Officer Mark Flello says that's even with the various bits of help and support from the government.
The help that we have had from the government, the UK government, is very welcome. It's still not a patch on, for example, what you might get in Germany or Spain or Italy, or of course, if you're looking further afield to China, where they are still building coal-fired power stations and doing all the things that we mustn't do in the UK.
And political leaders in Northern England are calling for levelling up to be enshrined into UK law. They want long-term funding settlements awarded to towns and cities instead of the current system, which sees areas bidding for government money for individual projects. They're making the case for the change at a convention of the North in Manchester today. A look at the weather for Staffordshire and Cheshire. Cloudy this afternoon with spells of rain, but it should dry up a bit by the end of the day. Highs of 8 Celsius. And for an update anytime, you can now ask your smart speaker to play BBC News for Stoke.
The sound of where we live.
and all the music you love. BBC Radio Stoke.
Somewhere in the city where the air is still, a baby being born to the overkill. But who cares what people say? We worked
Almost 11. It's Paula sitting in for Stuart. First reserve today. Last minute, got a phone call yesterday saying, can I come in for Stu? Absolutely no problem. However, right now, I should have been doing my walking netball. If you listen to my Friday morning breakfast show, you'll know that over the last few weeks I've been doing different activities, trying out different activities to try and keep fit, lose a bit of weight. I've bounced, I've spun, I've danced on a pole. I know, sorry if you're hungry, Elevenses. And today, for this Friday, it should have been walking netball. Well, of course, I've had to sort of postpone because I'm here, right? So, yeah, I'll be doing that on Saturday after the show. With the gang. I spoke to Charlotte last night about it, so yeah, you'll hear that next week on the show, on the breakfast show. However, there is something else, another aid to my quest, should I say, that I'm going to try out when I get home today with the help of my husband. You can hear about it on Friday. That sounds really ominous and rude, but it's not. Keep your calls and texts coming in. We're talking about the menopause. How old were you when you went through it, or if your partner's been through it? How did you cope with somebody going through menopause in the house? And just on a lighter side, I know menopause is not funny, but like I say, I nearly threw this very expensive casserole dish through a window because I was so angry. It was still dirty when it came out of the dishwasher whilst I was going through the brain fog. I hate to add. So just wanted to know what you've ever thrown in anger. We've had Sue threw her husband out, now ex-husband, and we also had Chris, whose wife threw a pork chop at him, which he then picked up off the floor, wrestled from the dogs, and still cooked her, and she didn't know it had been on the floor. Love it. 81333. Start your message with the word Stoke. Now, on to this next piece. Can you imagine? You're sitting, you're having a meal with your friends, you're having a good time, you know, chatting and just shooting the breeze, but then being asked to leave because you've got your assistant's dog with you. Well, that's exactly what happened to Louise Harris when she was in a pub, apparently, a couple of weeks ago. And Louise joins me now. Hi, Louise, how are you?
Hi, I'm all right, thank you.
So, first of all, before we get into the whens and the wheres, why do you have an assistant dog, if you don't mind me asking?
I have MS, and my sister's dog helps me open my shoelaces, takes my socks off, pulls my sleeve off my coat and my jumper. So she kind of does all that kind of stuff for me.
And she goes literally everywhere with you?
Yeah, she does, everywhere.
So, right, so tell us where you were and what happened then when you got asked to leave these premises.
I was in Hanley Wetherspoons, and this was 2 Fridays ago, and I was in there at 2 o'clock with my friends. We got in, we had a cup of tea, and then we decided to have some food, and we carried on socialising, and then all of a sudden the manager come over to me, and this was like 7 o'clock, so we'd been in there for a good few hours. And then the manager come over to me and asked me to leave. We don't allow your kind of dog in. And I said she's an assistant's dog. She has a coat on saying that she's an assistant's dog. Please do not disturb. Please don't be sorry. And she's well labelled. And then I got asked to leave. I challenged him and said, you can't under the 2010 Equality Act. No, we changed our policy. We only now accept guide dogs and hearing dogs. And I'd like you to leave. And I said, well, I'd like to see your policy. So he went in his office and gets a piece of paper. I did not see the piece of paper at all. And he was still standing in front of me, really intimidating, and making me feel really discriminated. Still asking me to leave, so then I had no choice but to leave. And came outside and just cried because I was like, humiliated, discriminated, and in front of my friends, and that we'd been in there for 5 hours previously. I was utter shock. I could not believe it, and we've been in there time and time again, and never had anything. Newcastle Wetherspoons have not got an issue with me at all, and they're quite happy with me. They met my other dog that was Lola, and they've got no issues with having Bella in there. And I was in there on the weekend.
You were in Wetherspoons in Newcastle at the weekend?
Yeah.
No problem.
Twice. No, none at all. I rang them up before I went in because of the issue I had in in Hanley Wetherspoons, and he goes, no, we've got no issue with you at all in here. You're more than welcome. We know your previous Staffy was amazing, and she's your other assistant's dog is welcome in here.
Have you, Louise, ever experienced anything like this anywhere else, where you've been in an establishment for several hours and then all of a sudden have to leave with your dog?
No, never.